So let's work on the first point, and that is copy between legal entities. I will create a new data project based on this style here. I give it some name so that I can recognize it later by the type of the data entity and type of a job I want to work on. So I will say print management, copy to legal entity. I can put whatever I want, but I will do the similar thing just with spaces. You see here you have these three types of operation: copy into legal entity, which we will use now, and for the remaining use cases we will be using these two. Put here something that makes sense to you. I will say configuration. And now this is important. What is your source legal entity? Because we want to copy from the source legal entity into the target legal entity or entities. In this presentation I want to copy from USMF into USPI company. So I will leave here USMF, and here I want to add USPI. It's here. I can also multi-select, but in this case, to make simpler testing, let's do just with one legal entity. And now here at the bottom we need to add our legal entity. And here you can select start typing and you will see a list of Docentric entities. I will select this one and add. We will get a few warnings, but you can ignore them. That is because some information is transferred in long strings. And in previous versions there used to be problems with that, but I didn't notice them recently, so you can ignore this. And we're basically ready to copy everything that we have configured in our USMF print management into USPI. But for the purpose of simpler testing, I don't want to really transfer everything, but I want to filter out only certain types of records. You do that by going here into filter, and you see the system has already set the condition that the records need to be from the USMF company. I will also add the following. I want that the document type is sales invoice. What does that mean? Let's go into my USMF company print management. That means that only the setup on the customer invoice node in the accounts receivable, or wherever else in some node-specific settings, like customer-specific settings, where the customer invoice report has been configured, those settings will be used based on this filter. Right now I don't have any customer-specific setup in this company. I have only these two, and let's check them. I have original configured to use Docentric email. There are many settings here, like save to print archive node, preview before print, to subject using a lot of our placeholders, attachments, also CC, BCC, body, we have this full HTML body, and also at the end we have our additional attachments rules. So all of this we expect to be transferred into the USPI company. And let's see, copy goes to the Docentric printer, to the default printer. Let's see that quickly. So we have the Docentric printer and default printer is selected, and also this print archive, which is a common setting to all print destinations. Let's check in USPI company. Here in USPI company, you see I don't have any settings, but we can make this clearer by going here, and you see there is no setup for the customer invoice. So now we are ready to execute our job of transferring the content from USMF to USPI, and only for the customer invoice setup. So we do that by saying copy into legal entity. and we get immediately the information that it was completed successfully, but it may also last longer, so you would click this refresh button to check the status. It can be like this, okay, so all the entries have been successfully transferred. It can give a warning saying that some entries were successfully transferred and some not, and also it can be error, meaning that no setting could be transferred. In each situation, you might want to see how the staging data looks like, because it is used as intermediate step. And if you click there, you will see here that we have the status of these two entries, that they were completed. Let's see the result. Let's go into the print management here, but we need to refresh it, so I need to go once again into that page, and now we see that we do have customer. So on USPI company, now I do have the setting, and it is exactly the same as in the original notice. Print archive, body, and so on. And the same is true for the copy. Most of the setups are this type that we saw here, so from the module. With that, you don't have to be very careful, but the following thing can happen, that you have some, we call it node-specific settings, so settings on some nodes different from the modules, and the nodes can be typically customers or vendors, but there are also many other types of the nodes. That means if I go into accounts receivable, all customers, and let's say that I want to make this general print management, so the customer specific setup for this customer, and that I later use this job to copy to legal entity. Let's see what's going to happen in the situation if I'm working with the customer, which exists in the source legal entity but doesn't exist in the target legal entity. So let's go here and check a list of our customers. You see not many of them in USPI company, so I do have US 004, for example, but I don't have DE 001. Is it correct? Correct. So let's make two setups, one on DE001, so on the customer that doesn't exist in the target, and then one on US 004, so on the customer that exists on the target. And let's check here just that there is no customer-specific print management setup. So if we go here and click original and right-click, if we have this override, that means that the setup here wasn't overridden. That means there is no customer-specific setup. We will see later when we have a customer-specific setup, then we will have option remove override or something like that. So there is no customer-specific setup in the target. And let's go now here in the source and make two customer-specific setups for US 004 and for let's say D001. So on print management, I will say here on customer invoice, on the original, override. So now I have, you see when I am here now, I can say remove override. So this will be customer-specific setup. And here I want to say go into, I don't know, file. Okay, and I will leave everything as it is. And go out. And for, what was it? US 004. Here it is. Customer invoice, override. Let's say maybe that we don't want save to print archive and this, and we want just to say that something is different. So we have a different subject, and these two flags different from the parent setup. Okay, let's go now and repeat this job for copying to legal entity, and let's see what are the results. To tell you in advance what we expect for the account number that exists in both environments or legal entities, in this case we expect to have a successful transfer of setup. For the customer account that exists in the source but doesn't exist in the target, we expect to get the error. So let's check that. Let's just say here copy into legal entity. So you see, this is the warning. That means some records were successfully transferred, but some were not. And let's check that, view staging data. So these were from our, now we have 4 entries, 2 for the default and 2 for the customers. And for the default, everything was okay. But for the customers, you see here for the US004 customer that exists in the target, everything was okay. But for this one, we have the error that node specific ID, this one, for node type customers could not be found in the target entity. So that's how to understand these errors. So this is basically everything as expected and everything okay. That was our first point, copy between legal entities.